Hello, I'm Medic, and this is a monologue. At the beginning of epic moments, monologues can be used in a wide array of different ways. They can be used to turn a sad moment into an uplifting one. They can be used to motivate you and make you believe in something. And they can be used to get you hyped. This monologue is about getting you hyped. The finals is here, and I'm here yelling loudly into this camera with flashing lights and cool pictures because that makes you feel awesome. And you know what else makes monologues awesome? Quick camera cuts. I'm here. I'm here. And now I'm here. Then we bring it back to a lull. We take a breath. Breathe in the atmosphere. You can feel it. The adrenaline, the endorphins, the magical science of your body making you feel like you can take on the world. This is the monologue you have been waiting for. You're welcome.
Medic, you just said monologue a bunch of times. I don't think you...
Look, Vedi, I did the monologue. That's what you asked for. Just start the show.
Okay, let's just start the show.
Rivalry is so outdated. Your history now looking faded. EU fans, we know you waited. Rogue and Mad now activated. G2, what are you without caps? Couple inters fighting over scraps. New kids are here, got that fresh blood. We'll beat you down, leave you in the mud. Listen, you've done all you can do. Players change, burn out, retire too. But you look like you're playing from a garbage can. It's time for that NA pension plan. Time to kill the monarchy, giving you anxiety. Thirsty for variety, decapitate the dynasty. We're nasty. If you ask me who the last be, it's not you. Boo-hoo, boo-hoo, Fnatic and G2, f*** you. Look, we're done with your shit. United in rivalry, you little bitch.
Well, welcome everyone to the LEC Spring Final, live from Berlin, Germany. It was a year late, but the rap battle, that was a prodigy. It was great. Today is such an iconic day in European League of Legends, as Mad Lions and Rogue will become our new champions. Two teams that have had an epic journey over the last years. None of these players have lifted the trophy before, but at the end of the day, 5 of them will write their names down in history. And I am honored to be here for it together with Bwipo and Vedius.
Hello.
What a day we have ahead of us.
Hey there. I mean, I feel a bit attacked.
Oh, yes, of course, unfortunately.
Oh, but it's so exciting. I didn't expect this to be the case. So many of us believed that G2 would bounce back. Many believed that it was just going to be a free season for G2. But the fact that we have these new young players fighting for the top, I'm super excited.
Not
I can't
even
wait.
mentioning Fnatic, actually.
Well, I mean, not worth much.
Yeah, you already talked about it yesterday. New plans coming in summer for all the teams that couldn't make it to the finals, because that's just the way the cookie crumbles. You get that chance, and then you have to make it happen. And yesterday, that's exactly what we saw. A changing of the guard in the LEC, the end of the G2 era for now, and Rogue making it to their first ever final. Vedius, you casted the series. It was a masterclass from Rogue.
It certainly was. I think that in every single game, we saw Rogue getting early game leads and converting that into strong, convincing victories. The only one being the Seraphine, where they got a little outscaled. But aside from that, we saw great drafts on them. We saw great playmaking across the board. And I think we saw a really standout performance from Inspired in particular.
What's most promising about Rogue's victory yesterday is the fact that they didn't actually change up the formula. I expected them to actually come in with different prep, but they played the same game they've always played. Make sure Larson, Hansama, and Inspired all get to the mid-late game stages with a ton of farm, and just roll from there.
And a bit of a follow-up there, because I remember that in Ready Check we talked about we did want to see something more, something different from Rogue if they wanted to take a step up. But it actually was just refining what they already did so well that got them to the finish line. Is that correct?
Absolutely. I think that when you looked at the games yesterday, you look at come into the mid to late game stages, Larssen on the Lucian, Hansama on the Jinx. They all just came in with like plus 40, plus 50 CS leads, and at some point, 4 to 5k gold is too much to deal with, and G2 crumbled under that. It'll be interesting to see if Mad Lions do the same.
Exactly, we will see. This bracket is a sight to behold, I gotta say. And often we have the discussions, you know, all across the world, really. If the new champion doesn't go through the current, the reigning champion, is it worth as much? Well, you can't make that argument here. Both Mad and Rogue set aside G2 handily, Vedius, 2-3-1.
They certainly did. And let's not forget that Rogue and Mad also played in the very first round.
Yes.
So there's a bit of history. It's a really exciting rematch because it's been building up to this point throughout the entire playoffs. People thought the teams would bounce back. We didn't expect it to be these two teams, but we're going to get to see them today, and we're in for a banger.
We didn't expect it, but we are very happy with it indeed. We do also have to say goodbye to G2. They were knocked out just yesterday. Reckless was also crowned MVP. Reminder, this, of course, voted right after the regular season. Bwipo, it just wasn't enough, and it's very bittersweet because this is a super team. But that just goes to show that that doesn't always mean immediate results.
I mean, honestly, I think the story of G2 in the playoffs, at least, has been that I feel like their top side has had a little bit of a rough time against the up-and-coming top sides. I mean, honestly, Fnatic had similar issues. I think me in particular I didn't have much of a great performance, and it goes to show how the rest of the LEC has caught up.
I also think that I was surprised that G2 was not able to adapt to the meta, given that this has been one of their biggest strengths in the past, often being the big innovators, the one that actually shapes the meta of Europe. The fact that they were lagging behind was something that I didn't expect to see from this G2 roster. So hopefully the redemption arc can come through in summer, and we're going to have some fun storylines because we know that this team is going to be hungry and motivated to get the title back.
Absolutely, and I think when we look at that bracket and we look at that and we say the end of an era, and I know people are already getting annoyed at the narrative or whatnot, but that is why I think this final specifically is also so incredibly important. Of course, the stakes are high. It is for the Spring Finals title, but you don't just get to a final in Europe. It doesn't mean because these teams are counted out now and the likes of Fnatic and the others that they're not going to come back stronger. And the example is in front of us in Odoamne. It took 7 years for him to be able to do that. So both of these teams today have to give their all to take this chance.
I think the craziest thing is that G2 or Fnatic have always had just the best talent in Europe. And one of the biggest challenges has always been overcoming that talent, let alone just matching it. And I think that what we're finally seeing is that the rest of Europe is starting to catch up. Talent alone is not going to be enough to carry you. And teams like Rogue, teams like Mad are now good enough to challenge you individually. And now they are actually good enough to beat you on the map in every other facet of the game.
Investing in that young talent, so incredibly important. And today we are closing out the roller coaster that was the LEC Spring Playoffs. So let's take a look back at how we ended up here.
Yeah, take that.
Hold tight. We're almost there.
But wait, what are you even doing here?
Oh, you know, the usual.
Look, we made it.
Wow, look at this arena.
And with a live audience, that's so 2019.
Congratulations on making it to the final stage, LEC teams. Your ultimate challenge is approaching.
Huh? Oh no. What is happening?
Hey guys, so which one of you is gonna fight us? Huh? Have fun.
Why is it that I can never finish a sentence? No, something always has to come interrupt me. Dramatic lights, dramatic music, players shouting skip, just rambling.
Oh, I love it. Big shout out to everyone behind the scenes for the 8-bit theme and all the amazing videos. On to other things, though. And you might say, oh my God, they're talking about G2 again. You'll find that soon. And that is that for spring regular season, the community, all of you, were in charge of the all-pro team voting. And this is your chosen lineup. As said, this happens after the regular season when G2 was, of course, in the #1 spot. Now it feels a bit bittersweet, of course.
I mean, it's pretty rough. I think you could have made an argument for all of these players to be #1. Also, the opposite. I think you could have slotted in some other players, but ultimately, it goes to show how talented all their players really are.
True, but I want some discussion. Who would you maybe have put in another position?
Well, inspired. It would have been inspired. I'm like, especially when you only have to look yesterday's points. Of course, this is based on the regular season when it comes to All-Pro, but even during the regular season, I feel like that Inspired has just had such a phenomenal split. The amount of growth that he has made has been phenomenal, but it's just about how he's found a team that both enables him and how he then uses his advantages to then return that investment back in towards his team. Inspired is mechanically very strong, has a very deep champion pool, and for me, has been the best jungler of the split.
Honestly, for top lane, I think Odoamne definitely should be in question. He was the second All-Pro team, not quite the first, but considering he was third in the MVP voting, it is kind of surprising to see that he didn't show up as the #1.
Do you think that's a side effect of being the weak side king as he's known as, or?
I mean, honestly, I think it really plays into his standings, really. Like the fact that he is the best top laner at being on his own does buff his performance, really. I think it sets expectations for what you want out of him, and he always delivers.
And as always, we revealed the All-Pro, this time voted by the community in its entirety. When we're already through the playoffs, or a lot of it, so a lot of people will say, but hey, G2 was knocked out and Mickey didn't have the best performance, but you can never take away the fact that they did perform well in the regular season.
And that's the important thing, right? Both G2 and Rogue ended the season at 14-4. That's why when everyone looked at it, we thought that those would be the two teams in our final, and we thought that that would build into this incredible clash. And we did get that yesterday a little bit early, but again, goes to show they did all have a great regular season, and I'm excited to see what they can do in the return.
Yeah, feeling these things, especially, I mean, when we do the voting as well, but the community, you're not just fighting against the weight of kind of what these players have done in the regular season specifically, but like the echoes of what they've done in the past and what you think they are capable of come playoffs. So it's very hard for other people to get in there. Can I get your comment also on the MVP? We had Reckless yesterday, but Inspired and Odoamne, they were trailing, and it paints a great picture of the top three, of course.
I mean, it's really fascinating because everyone seems to have a different idea of what MVP is. Some people think it should just be best player. Some people think that it should be most valuable. For me, it was Odoamne in the split. I think that his addition to Rogue really just changed Rogue and was the level up. And I think that while Reckless did have a truly phenomenal split, one of the best of his career, Inspired and Odo, I think both would have made very worthy candidates.
Yeah, so we'll see if the All-Pro voting changes in summer. Thank you so much, everyone, for voting. And today's series is, of course, a testament to the new wave we've seen building over the past years in EU. 7 of the players on stage today came to the LEC after playing at EU Masters and in the ERLs. Laure is going to take us down a walk on memory lane.
For so many years, Europe has been known as a region with an immense pool of young talents. We are not only one region, we are several regions and one of several competitive scenes. This is what shaped Europe over the years. It's this constant fight between veterans, the old guard, versus a constant flow of new players ready to take them down, to overcome the old generation. We are the region that sends rookie teams to Worlds and MSI to take down giants and create beautiful stories. It all starts with the EU Masters, but this is where the new generation of players arises. This is where the journey starts for them. For so many years, Europe has been known as a region full of new blood and talents, and the development of the IRLs has made the competition even stronger. Since 2019, both our finalists have a total of 10 players come from the IRLs, and 7 of them will be in the finals today. Carzzy and Kaiser's story began in summer 2019 as they faced off in the EU Masters semifinals. And even back then, you could see the fire in these players. On one side, Carzzy with the crazy picks to serve his creativity and dominant style in lane. And on the other, Gistik, a prodigy who would soon become their Kaiser as we know him, an insanely smart support and clutch engaged player. 3 months later, these rivals joined forces, and after only 1 year and 4 months in the league, they are playing together in their very first LEC final. This year, we got to meet Trumbi, a diamond in the rough from the Ego Rogue factory. A smart and playmaker rookie who got recognized at the EU Masters for the first time, flexing on his Leona and famous Rakan. A player who was already praised and described as one of the most promising rookies even joined the scene. Trimby entered the LEC with a heart as big as his motivation to succeed, and he never got scared of any of his opponents, living up to the expectations around him. This year, we also got to meet Elyoya. In 2019, he was playing amateur tournaments in Spain, dreaming of becoming a pro player. And 2 years later, he is playing in the LEC finals with hundreds of thousands of fans watching from home. His journey is taken from a movie script. A player that Mac, his head coach, described as one of the most hardworking, self-reflected and passionate young talents he's ever met. He also said that Elyoya came to his very first interview with Mad Lions with tons of questions. He was super proactive and this blew him away. His confidence and drive to be the best helped him to quickly become the leader Mad Lions needed. He's already got the mindset of a champion and may soon become one. Both Elyoya and Trimby are extremely hardworking, passionate and dedicated players with aspirational goals for their future. This mentality has led them all the way to the LEC finals, and one of these rookies will lift the trophy in their very first season. Mad and Rogue represent what Europe and the LEC stands for. Young and hungry talents ready to take on the old guard and prove that narratives need to be renewed. If you want to watch the next ERL talents in action, be sure to tune in the Masters Group stage next week on Wednesday. This is where our finalists got their breakthrough. And who knows, maybe we'll get to see the start of new LEC careers this year. Now back to you, Sjokz.
Thank you very much, Laure. Fantastic breakdown and really capturing the essence of what is the most important thing here today. And I think I also sent it out on Twitter, but I heard a couple of people here and there, which is understandable if you're a G2 fan that you after lost, like, I'm not going to watch the final, but also people saying, why would I watch? Why would you not watch? This is, for us also working on the broadcast, who are also still fans of the game, this is fantastic. And these are two teams that embody what the LEC and what European League of Legends is all about. It's finding those new players in the ERLs. It's fostering talent. It's working with that talent. It's scouting to make your team stronger and not just always do the same. Follow your own path. And I love it.
There was a time when a young man named Perks joins the league, knocks out Fnatic, and then makes it to his first finals. A young man named Bwipo kicks out a veteran called Soaz, and people say, why would I watch this Fnatic team? Why do I care about a random guy who's just subbing in for someone who's hurt themselves, right? Like, the point is that the next generation of future superstars always comes in players like this. And that's why you want to watch. That's why you have to watch, because the next Caps, the next Perks, the next Bwipo, they are playing on stage right now, and they're going to be playing in the EU Masters soon.
Let me ask you then, Bwipo, as a pro player, now, you know, an older pro player, an experienced pro player, do you feel that fire also behind you, like knowing that those guys are waiting in the wings to take your position?
I mean, for sure. I think the competitiveness of the LEC is what makes it so interesting, right? Like, you don't want to sit there and watch the same players play out. I mean, obviously, G2 Fnatic is a great rivalry. Yeah. Some people like it. Again, I like it too. It is a rivalry. But other than that, we don't really have anything really like a true rivalry beyond that. And I'm really hoping to see something like a Mad Rogue rivalry start here.
Yeah, ideally, we now have more rivalries, right? And that's good for everyone, because that means you at home get more narrative. Yay! All right, so now for something lighter. As we look back on the spring season, we have some quotes that aged like wine, while others came back to slap the messengers in the face. This is That Didn't Age Well. I love it. So these are just all statements that just didn't age well. They're all from different sources. And we're going to start with this one from Selfmade, saying in a stream, if I lose a best of 5 to Gilius, I'm going to NA next year. Oof. Oof. It's also it's like very specific, right? Also,
yeah,
and then it happens. It's unlucky.
This clip again as well.
Yeah, this clip.
Can't catch a break. Can't catch a break.
But that's the life of a pro player, right? If you can do so many things right, and if you do one thing wrong.
I still have nightmares about the Urgot from Worlds.
Yeah.
Great rookie junglers from EU Masters though, Bwipo, you know what I mean? Like, I think it's one of those things where obviously a lot of confidence, and we always love that smack talk coming out from Selfmade. It's one of the best things. But you've got to have the banter, the back and forth, you know what I mean? You've got to dish the heat, you've got to take the heat. That's
exactly. We like that. So next up, every single prediction from the LEC expert panel.
I'm guilty.
As much as we've hyped Mad Lions, I really think G2 are going to turn it on this series. I think it's going to be a 3-1 to G2. I think that G2, although they did struggle a little bit against Schalke, I think that there was a lot of
trolling going on, I must say, and I want to see the real version of G2. I want to see Wunder on a carry, and I think they should be able to take the series.
Maybe I'm a little bit blinded by the fact that I cast Fnatic getting absolutely stomped by Sjokz, but I'm all in on the Sjokz hype train right now. I think it's going to be a 3-1 overall to Sjokz. This is a team that has continued to impress me every single time around, so even if there's a little bit of doubt in my mind, even if on paper maybe Rogue has a few edges here and there, I'm putting my faith in Sjokz.
I'm going to predict a 3-1 for Rogue. Right now, their consistency is what I weigh more heavily in favor for them.
All right, let me preface this by saying I think these two teams are very closely matched, but I do think that bot lane is going to be very pivotal in this series, and I have to give Fnatic a pretty significant edge there. Even with last week's performance, I still think they've got it. And I am a fan of bold predictions, so I'm going with a 3-0. It might not be a 3-0 because these teams are close, but I'm bold.
I'm a big fan of Rogue. I think they've been so consistent, especially summer last year. They finished first place. They bombed out in playoffs and Worlds, yes, but they took G2 to 5 games, so it means they were competitive with them. I think this roster is upgraded, but I think G2's roster is also very strong, obviously. I think this will be a 3-2 to G2. I think it will go 5 games.
Oh, they even cut yours out, but you also...
Yeah, I was the worst.
I think this is kind of the worst track record we've had from the analysts in like a playoff run, but I think that also goes to show how much you kind of not only talk about or think about when you take into account your analysis, the current performance, but also they've done it so many times before. They always step up when it matters most. Surely they're not going to lose, but...
I mean, I will say it's one of those situations where perception and bias, I think, definitely had a bit of an influence there. You know, like the pedigree of the players and the history, it's hard to believe that a team like that would lose until you actually see them do it. So, yeah, definitely not some great predictions this time around in the LEC.
There's some more coming up later, so I'm very excited to hear who you think is going to win today. This one, though, is from last year, but it was just so perfect, we had to include it as well. Our apologies again to all the Fnatic faithful.
So what? We struggled just a little bit. Got knocked down, took a few hits, took our time standing up, now I admit, not here to pretend had a bad split. Maybe it's time that we shift gears, show them the Fnatic that you fear. The one with the penners and the big plays, we could bring him back for a few days. G2 is just a name on a list, revenge for Fnatic, got time, this is it. Can't wait to watch your reign collapse. What you gonna do, just buy another cap? I'm sorry, but this rivalry still lives in me. Acknowledge me, Fnatic army, come to end your party, I will always be your adversary. You should be very wary, a curse kinda scary, ticket to the cemetery as we return to glory.
You were like, what you gonna do? Buy another caps? And Carlos was like, we'll take Reckless. Thank you very much. By the way, shout out to Carlos and the goated hot tub stream.
Clearly that's where all of his decisions are made. You can see he gets up to a lot in those hot tubs. But yeah, that rap battle continues to pay dividends. We did a good job.
We were all a year, well, actually you were on time, and then everyone else was a year early in terms of the Mad Lions and the Rogue.
It was crazy.
It was crazy indeed. Then we have a next one who we think is going to, end up in the That Didn't Age Well category later. Humanoid tweeted yesterday, LEC is actually such a free win. I mean, they talk about us jinxing things, but...
I mean, honestly, with Wunder out, you gotta find a replacement, right? For the banger tweets.
For the banger tweets.
I respect it.
I respect it. I always love seeing tweets like this. I love seeing confidence from our players as well. And, you know, I just think the trash talk just makes it all the more spicy when we actually get in a game.
I agree. And I think we have a lot of players who also just take it on the chin afterwards. If they get knocked out, they're like, well, I'm not going to stop bantering. That's half the fun. Okay. So the LEC is, of course, not the only league that's nearing the end of playoffs. In the LPL, the final is just 1 week away. So for a closer look at our possible MSI competition, here is LPL caster Lyric.
Hey LEC, it's Lyric from the LPL here. All of us at the LPL are super excited to watch the LEC finals between Mad Lions and Rogue. I think it's awesome that you guys have some fresh new faces on the Rift. One of these teams are going to be the first team since Season 4 to win a championship outside of Fnatic or G2. And it's also great that we're going to have some fresh blood representing the LEC in the rivalry between the LEC and LPL. These are teams that have delivered us banger series like G2 versus RNG, IG versus Fnatic, FPX versus G2, and most recently that Top Esports Fnatic series that did go all the way to 5 games at the most recent World Championship. So finding out which of these teams is going to represent you in that, I think, is super fun. But speaking about MSI, I think a lot of LEC fans are asking themselves, hey, what do we do for the 3 weeks between LEC Finals and MSI? Where do we get our fix for some good League of Legends? Lucky for you guys, the LPL playoffs is still going on. We have 3 teams left in the running, FPX, EDG, and RNG. That is 1 former world champion and 2 former MSI champions. All three of these teams have also won the LPL in the past. So if you want some really aggressive games, you want some insane team fights and some of the best mechanical players in the world, we would love to have you guys tune in. We have our next semifinal on April 13th, followed by our grand final to crown the champion on April 18th, where we'll also get to find out who is going to continue that long-standing rivalry. I will say, it's been a bit more LPL favored, so, you know, Mad Lions or Rogue, we hope you guys can show up. But I think all of us are just hoping that we can get some banger games out of our next two finals heading into MSI. So please, guys, don't miss out. We'd love to have you there.
Thank you so much, Lyric, and also thank you for being so generous of calling it an LPL LEC rivalry. That was really good of you. Thank you. But yeah, I mean, just listening to him talk about the LPL, saying, okay, we have two MSI champions and a world champion. And Bwipo, I think we were talking about this yesterday. MSI is so unique in that there are no second seeds. Only the best of the best around the world is what you have to face, which makes it so intimidating.
I mean, that's the hardest part for me to see EU at a tournament like that. Teams like Rogue and Mad Lions without any international experience, or very little, I believe. Odo Omni has some, but other than that, no one really comes to mind.
Ansama a little bit as well.
Ansama a little bit, I guess, yeah, for sure. But, you know, 7 rookies, you play against #1 seed. All the scrims you play are best seed Korea, Dam1, best seed in LPL. I mean, the 3 teams I heard, I know I've had my fair share of struggles with most of those guys. It's going to be tough.
Yeah, and I think that it's fair for Europe to be nervous, especially when our perception of G2 is that this is the best team that Europe's ever created, and if we don't have that level of veteran talent, that level going to an international event, we're just going to crumble. And when you look at the international competition right now, Dam1 still looks insanely strong. You see the top 3 in the LPL teams having some crazy games. Like, it is going to be a stacked tournament, and the best we can do is support our rookies and hope for the best.
Yeah, definitely. So I feel like it's very different for us this time around, because you kind of, and I don't believe in like giving up before you get there, but it is going to be a different experience for a Rogue or a Mad Lions. But I also love that they're going to get to go there and scrim these teams, and that's going to be so, so valuable for them also in hopefully the knowledge they bring back to Europe and the trophy. Maybe, probably not. I don't know. I believe in the rookies. You never know.
It's important to recognize that what we see now and what we see then is going to be different. It's going to be a different meta. There's going to be a lot of scrim time. Teams evolve, players change, and I know that it is going to be a banger tournament for sure, and I'm sure that these two teams in our final will not let us down.
Absolutely. When talked about which teams do we fear, I think we talked about the LPL already. And spoiler alert, 3, 2, 1. Okay, from the LCK, we know that Dam1 Kia is going to MSI, of course, and that's forever going to be a very, very scary team. And I think I saw it on Twitter from someone who said Dam1 Kia is greater than LPL, is greater than LCK, is greater than the rest of the pack. Do you agree with that?
I think it makes sense, honestly. Like, they're looking really strong. They've adapted their style to having tank top lanes for half of their games.
Yeah.
Like, Noguri came in from last year, and now it's Khan, and he's picking Sion every other game.
I think that Dam1 are just as clean as they were before. I think you can debate the level of competition overall in the LCK, but the one thing you cannot debate is that Dam1 is a damn good team. They're looking to continue their dominance from the World Championship, and I think that they're definitely going to be the team to watch. And Canyon is always going to be the player for me that I keep my eyes on. If we get to see a Canyon versus Inspired or an Elyoya, like, I'm really hyped. I think that's going to be really exciting, because it's definitely a different type of jungler that we're sending to an international event.
Definitely. So very exciting. Of course, as said already in the LPL, FPX secured a spot in the final earlier today, and they will then face the winner of RNG versus EDG. That's all on MSI. Let's get our lens. Let's not actually. Let's look at some of that. I said spoiler alert. I didn't know we were going to show.
I just wanted to remind people as well to like definitely check out the games if you haven't seen them. The LPL has only had chaotic games. They've gone all the way. They've been incredibly intense.
This is actually insane.
And it's it was such insane series both today and yesterday. Would definitely recommend checking them.
Yeah, we always get like caught off guard, I think, for years now. But we can probably we're like, oh, the LPL, like sometimes they play messy games and this and that. Surely, you know, you got to be able to beat them somehow. Turns out, no.
I mean, the biggest thing about the LPL is like the reason why the games go so messy is because all the players are so damn good.
Yeah.
They're individually at the top of their game. So even if one of their players is 0-3, 0-4, it doesn't matter. They still know how to find the absolute most out of their champions and create threats out of a 0-4 Kai'Sa, something that you would be like, oh, but this guy is useless. Absolutely not. These guys squeeze out every little bit of their champions.
All right, we'll be looking forward to MSI, and obviously we're waiting to see who we will send from Europe. Today in the LEC, we're watching history being made as Rogue and Mad Lions fight for a spot at MSI and their first LEC title.
years of top 3 finishes knocked out in an instant.
Sjokz fought and they fought, but in the end, it is Rogue who come out on top.
And it's Mad Lions that defeats G2. And it's Mad Lions that qualify for their first ever final.
G2 are a team that have won so many times that they can never be counted out until they are fully eliminated. They are, until proven otherwise, the best team the LEC has ever produced, and someone is going to have to take that from their cold, dead hands.
Oh, Mickey!
Mickey, you so fine!
Reckless Flash Mantra Q, and here comes the calling!
The Soul Flare sets up the double.
Shockwave!
Shockwave catches 2. Kaiser as well as Onward. That's the first one down. G2 now regain control of the pit, and Kazi is just blown up. Wonder finds him where he stands, chases for another. G2 win their first of the series.
I know we lost against Mad, and it probably made us look like fools. When we have like the safety line, then it's always a bit sketchy our performance. But to me, this title is ours. I think we have it in us.
Rogue are a team that have been constantly and steadily improving. They proved that they can do whatever it takes to find a win in the end.
And here comes Trimby, and here come the rest of Rogue. Gillius, you can have every Drake you damn well like. The quadra kill for Larson. Oh! The weak have been scattered by Larson. It is Odo. Feel the power of the slicing maelstrom. Immediately Sjokz lose 3, and Rogue turn back to the Baron.
I know that it's going to be hard against G2. They are a team that is known for when they're falling, they will go back at the top. We're going to take this momentum that we took today against Schalke to try to rise even higher.
I think winning split is possible, and I really want to do it. We'll do our best, and I think it will be a banger if we get to the final.
To me, if any team is a successor to G2, it is the Mad Lions. They have so much fun when they're playing, they adapt so incredibly quickly.
Oh, they got capped! The Magnus still comes in, they've got capped! He manages to get away 4 now, but he does get taken out of Kazi. That gets the kill. Dash up the wall, front caps, no flash available to him. Hammer comes in, pulverize available from Mickey, and caps goes down to Elyoya. That picks up the kill, he gets himself a double. But from Humanoid, he only gets those Yankos and he's forced to use the hourglass. Onward comes in from behind, waiting to Nora. They found caps. Now G2 are going to get wrecked. Mad Lions run down the defending LEC champions.
Yes, Carzy, dance on him! Carzy finishes him off, he's on a rampage.
Since 2017, I'm working really hard to improve myself as a player. And now we beat G2, and next week I'm playing the LEC championship. Like, what? I don't expect this from myself. Yeah. Maybe I'm just a beast.
I've been working always to become the best. I was always looking up to FLICKR and like Uzi and Reckless and those big names, and I would want to become a big name as well.
Next weekend has the potential to change our perspective on everything. Will we see a new team lift the trophy in the LEC? I cannot wait to find out.
Yes, we will. Over the past 8 years, only 3 teams have lifted the LEC trophy. And tonight, we will stop looking backwards and start looking forward to the new history that is being made by Mad Lions and Rogue. It marks the start of a new era in European League of Legends, and we got to celebrate the teams and also how they got to this point. We said already they both have to go through G2, so they already kicked out the reigning champion. And now they have to face teams with similar values in terms of investing in rookie talent, but also fostering talent, experienced players flanking the newer ones, great coaching staffs behind them, seeing who will be the best on the day. Let's start by talking about the Mad Lions, of course, first Spliced, then into Mad Lions, and it was really a new beginning for these guys, with only Humanoid remaining in that mid.
It certainly was. With the rebrand from Splice, I think that the goal was to get a new identity, because long days are the forgotten of the 35-minute where, oh, if it gets past those minutes and they suddenly win the game, they have fresh fresh faces, they had new players ready to join the Rift, and honestly, it was all about a growing process. They were trying to find that talent that they could continue to develop and build around. And I think that what we saw was this evolution from a strong bottom lane, but a weak side top that still needed to develop. But even with that, even with the weaknesses, they still made their way to the World Championship. And while they did underperform, I think that overall they were very happy with their year and only looking forward to the new year of 2021.
Honestly, the Mad Lions macro has just improved. Like, over the course of the years, they've consistently made the same team look better. And I think that's the most impressive thing for me. Even though there have been new additions to this team, it has only made the team look better. You look at teams like G2 and Fnatic, when we made a new addition, we brought Selfmade in, we had some growing pains. G2 brings in Reckless, some growing pains. Comparing to Mad Lions, which, honestly, since bringing in the new talent, has only looked better and better.
Yeah, I think that is a great point, and it also goes to show that the whole system behind both of these teams, by the way, is so on point, and we can't forget that some choices were made here. Okay, Arome, Armut coming in, people would maybe expect that, but Shadow, yes, not the best Worlds performance, but fantastic player domestically the whole year around, but they went out and they scouted this young Spanish prodigy in the jungle role, and even put an important role on him in terms of shot calling straight from the start, and tried to integrate him, and it worked. And those are some of the choices and some of the strategies that I admire so much in the Mad Lions.
Yeah, and they've been a pleasure to watch. The fact that they've been able to achieve so much in such a short time, and the fact that Humanoid is now sort of reaping the benefits of all of this, being that primary pinnacle at the center and having this team built around him. They've now reached a point where they can fight for that first title, and the growth and evolution is finally starting to pay off.
And as I said, both competitors see in each other's eyes kind of similar stories, because for Rogue it is also a story of constant growth. They, by the way, lost to Mad Lions, right? In these playoffs still, they now coming back. They get another chance. They get back-to-back wins over Schalke and over G2. And it's a similar story in terms of really fostering talent they brought in from the ERL, mostly AGO Rogue at times, combining that experience with those younger players and making sure it can work. They won coaching staff yesterday, and it goes to show that they know what they're working with.
The most interesting thing about 2020 for me when it comes to the playoffs is the losers bracket came back with a vengeance.
True.
G2 both times came back from the losers bracket to knock us down a peg and end up winning the final. So we'll have to see whether or not Rogue, in this case, can come back with their vengeance for their first best of 5.
And I think what's amazing about this Rogue roster is, again, the changes that have happened over time. And this is the formula for success that we're starting to see here in Europe, because that was the roster that has found success. But this is where it started. This is what the 10th place Rogue roster, where the team struggled to find any success. Then they made changes. They made evolutions moving into summer, where they said, okay, this roster was not working for us. So instead, let's introduce our ERL team. Let's actually just bring in some changes. And this is where we see some of the fresh faces of Larssen and Inspired. We knew that there was talent there. We knew that there was something to be built from, and Rogue did the same, so they continued to evolve. Moving into the next year, they continued to make small changes with the introduction of Hans Sama and Finn to the roster. More young talent into the top side. And the point that I'm getting at is you can just see how this roster has continued to evolve over time, and now we're again at this point where they were finally able to overcome the strong Titans of G2 and have this roster that can fight for the top spots in Europe.
I love that you just showed all these previous rosters, because you can see it. And also, again, the same that goes for Mad Lions, making risky decisions in a way. Trimby coming in for Vander, who's one of the most experienced in the league. I'm just going to take the mic for 1 second, because this roster is also so incredibly impressive. Oduwamne, 7 years in the making. A guy that's been playing professionally for so long, had the highs on H2K, of course, started all the way in 2013 on Absolute Legends. Then we have Inspired and Larssen, who joined together, have now been playing together since those days, and joined the league in the summer of 2019. Then we have Hans Sama, who we don't even talk about that much, but he's also legend status here in EU, and I think he's still looking for those glory days with the Misfits in 2017. Now he gets his chance. And as said already, Trimby, as well as some people behind the scenes like Jen and Fly, who have been there for years and years and years, and they finally see it work. And yeah, I just want to take a minute to say that, because it's just overpowering how impressive that road has been.
And the thing that's most important to me, and why we really wanted to hammer home these journeys, was because when we look at some of the best rosters that Europe has ever had, I look at when Reckless initially joined the league. You can go back even further when Xpeke was in the league, when Froggen. There were all these players that you would build these teams around, and they would eventually become legendary teams. And I think that Mad Lions and Rogue have now reached a point where they can reach that legendary status and start making history here in Europe.
Beautiful. In a league where new talents enter the stage each year, the award for Rookie of the Season comes with a lot of prestige. In spring, this player took the LEC by storm, and who knows, maybe we're watching a legend in the making.
Por parte de Senna tenemos teleport y teleport también por parte de Raiders.
Está llegando Vinsus, buenos Fonias por parte de Chico para esquivar ese ultimátum. Gesteki llega Elyoya con todo.
As the turrets get pushed, Tasteless is not having a very fun game. Lukazi can't walk into that brush. Elyoya goes forward yet again, and he's going to stay alive for a little bit longer.
Out a bit more in the individual 1v1 scoring. More for the team as Touring is just getting absolutely destroyed here. Elyoya waiting, looking for an opportunity. Here he goes. Blade's Reach comes out. Dan now going to be in trouble. Humble Trespass comes through. The 1v1 happens off to the side. Carzzy now isolated. They're just going to start mowing down these kills. There's nothing left for Patrick. He pulls out with the Rend. Are you kidding me? Elyoya, he's now hunting. Shadow Step coming through. Yes, Blade's Reach. One auto. Doesn't even need the ult, but he'll use it anyway. That damage is nasty.
With a two-man scatter. Humanoid and Carzzy down to half HP. Humanoid stepping forward the Elder Dragon. It's going to a smite. Elyoya gets it! And you have to feel that's the end for G2.
Work he did for Mad. Okay, I'm just capture cursing him. Goodbye, Elyoya!
Farewell. Oh!
Rookie of the split! What did I say? Rookie of the split!
Maybe they can stall out for a bit longer, but I don't think Mad are going to let it happen.
And then he charges in, and again, it just zones him out. I mean, you're hooking the wrong target limit. You don't want this guy. He's just too big as the Magnet Storm comes in, absolutely decimating Schalke's backline. They're trying their best, but they just don't have the damage. Mad absolutely slaughter Schalke in their own base, and they're going for the win. A triple kill for the absolute beast in the jungle that is Elyoya, and they'll take the final nail in the coffin. Mad are pushing for the win.
Elyoya, congrats on winning Rookie of the Season. We talked about this one actually after the round one. You told me about how you liked winning these trophies, collecting this milestone. What does this one represent to you?
So this Rookie of the Split, to me it means that I'm doing the things well, which is quite important for me. It shows that the work I'm putting is also like showing some reward, I would say. So it feels like really rewarding to get this kind of trophies. And also it's good to keep like the trend of like last year I had the two I could get. This year I'm getting now. Now on Summer Split I will go for the MVP.
Summer Split for MVP, maybe another trophy at the end of the day, we'll see. I'm gonna be honest with you, I had a chat with Mac 2 days ago just to talk about you, how you were as a player, and something that stayed with me is the fact that he described you as one of the most passionate players, and that translates into your motivation and work every day. So I want to have your vision of what makes the best player to you when it comes to mindset and attitude to the game. What would it be?
I mean, to me, the best player is the one that does everything to win. Like, he sacrifices everything he has or that he can do to win in order to win. So for me, that's the best player. Like, not the guy that is looking the best, or like not the guy that is going for the most plays. It's just the guy that is doing the most he can to get that win for his team.
And that, I mean, when we see the performance you had throughout the whole split, I think it's super impressive because you went from playing in the amateur Spanish scene 2 years ago, from reaching your very first LEC finals in your first year. What is your drive, Elyoya? What drives you to become better?
My drive is, I know what my passion is, so I try my best to achieve my goal. Like, my goal is to be able to live of what I enjoy doing, and at the moment I enjoy doing League, so I want to try my hardest to make a living of this.
And after a single split, you became a key for Mad Lion's success, and actually the strongest leader Mad Lion had, and the leader they needed. Mac told me also that during the first round, after the first game, you were the one rallying the team backstage, motivating everyone. Can you tell me about this role and how you instantly become the leader Mad Lions needed?
I mean, to be honest, I didn't even realize until he told me. So I was just in a stage and I was watching that, like, we played first game, but I felt like we didn't really play it. That it wasn't us the way we usually play. So I was like, we didn't even start the series yet. So let's just get to it and like let's play the way we know. So for me, it was like I didn't even realize what Mac told me then. I'm like, okay, I guess.
That's what's insane about you. You have like this champion's mindset, and you don't even realize it. So, quick question about before I let you go. You will play the LEC finals today. What would it mean to you to win this trophy?
I mean, it would just mean like. I don't think I can describe the feeling it is to win the LEC on like your first split after you've been watching for so long. In like, I've been watching LEC for 5 years or even more. Like, you just watch it and you're like, I wish I could be in that big screen someday. Now I'm here, just to win it on my first split. It's just like, yeah, I have no words. I would say like I don't think I can really describe how the feeling is.
Well, I wish you the best of luck today, Elyoya. Congrats again on the amazing journey in the LEC so far. I'm sure it's just the beginning. And yeah, good luck today against Rogue.
Thank you so much.
And for more on Elyoya's journey in the LEC, back to you, Vedius.
Elyoya has surprised many with his introduction to the LEC. Very few players have made it all the way to the finals in their first year. This young jungler seems to show immense promise. So let's have a look as to why. I believe that Elyoya is an extremely flexible jungler, often adapting to the game state and highlighting what needs to be done to gain advantages. And I have 2 clips to try and highlight this. So we're going to quickly look back at his series versus Rogue. And in a situation like this, I want to draw your attention to the minimap and also the comp. So the first thing to notice is with the slight gold lead that Mad do have, and with the fact that they have a Senna, and they also have an Azir, this composition is slowly going to start scaling up, and may be problematic for Mad to deal with. So they need to find opportunities to try and get the game going for the Jinx. So what they're going to see is they're going to see this Azir up in the top lane, and they're going to see Aatrox in the bot. What's really important to highlight is that both of these champions, as my touchy tool stops working, actually have teleport available to them, right? So because they have the teleport means that they can actually join any sort of play that ends up happening in the moment. So as we roll this clip out, what I want you to watch is, in this brief moment, the moment Elyoya gets information that he sees one top and he sees them bot, he's saying, you know what? I actually don't think that a Rogue will TP here. Inspired is slightly out of position. They immediately commit to the fight. This was a very small window where he has to make this play happen. And what makes it even better is he gets 2 kills onto Kazi. They take down the mid tower as well. And sure, while it's not just Elyoya, it is a huge team effort. This starts the snowball, and this starts that 8k damage that Kazi gets later on in the Baron fight. So moving on to our second clip, this was their series versus G2. Now we're going to watch as to how Elyoya uses information on the map to try and gain advantages for his team. So as we start to roll this clip out, and I'm going to bring up the mini-map, you'll notice that Caps is going to go back to base, and then he's going to look for a TP onto this bot lane ward to try and set up a flank, as Elyoya is pathing towards bot side because he knows that his camps are spawning. Now in this moment, after he sees the TP, he realizes that his bot lane is safe, so he recognizes, actually, I think I can do something here. Let's get a little bit more information on the enemy jungle. I should know that the enemy red is spawning soon because I can see that the timer is coming up. So let's see what's going on with raids. So he moves up towards the raids, he realizes he doesn't need to make any gank happen, and he realizes, hang on, I can use the Fog of War and I can catch the Lucian on the rotation up. Now G2, they're no slouches either. They bring Mickey up, they're aware that there's a potential play that could be happening, but Mad don't care. They have the Twisted Fate ultimate, they have everything that they need, and they realize that they can catch Caps out here with the Rakan also rotating up for the 3-man collapse to end up making this pick and getting a huge early game kill. And this puts G2's comp horribly behind to a position where they actually cannot come back. And all of this is just really good map awareness, really good playmaking and teamwork, and ultimately allows teams to get ahead. So in both clips, we see examples of Elyoya doing the unexpected, not afraid to make plays with good information within a limited time window. Both of these plays could have gone wrong, but with great teamwork and good execution, we see how impactful Elyoya can be for his team and how he's able to get the Mad Lions ahead.
Thank you so much for explaining that after also the reveal of Elyoya as Rookie of the Split. Fantastic by him. And that just gives us such a marquee matchup in the jungle. And I think we're going to really see a master class in the jungle for Inspired versus Elyoya. Bwipo, we know they're both great. Wherein lie the differences between these 2 junglers?
I think Elyoya is more willing to sacrifice a little bit of a CSD, look at ganks more than neutral objectives than Inspired. With that in mind, both of them obviously doing really, really well, across all metrics of a jungler.
When it comes to creativity, who would you give the edge to, which can be very important in a best of 5?
I think Elyoya is a little bit more creative. You saw the Volibear, he ults over, disables the tower, and then chases Inspired all the way into his jungle. I feel like that takes a little bit more insight, a little bit more, well, balls really to commit to a play like that.
I think
it twice now in 2 days.
There's just a huge risk involved with a play like that as well, because we talked about it. The double TPs could have been very bad for him, and I think that having that decisiveness is good, but Inspired is just calculated, right? And like we saw it versus yesterday when he played versus Jankos, the way in which he uses information to get leads and the fact that he constantly punishes every single decision that you make means that he starves you out. He is a very difficult jungler to really put behind in the early game.
Yes, indeed. Inspired. Fantastic job so far. And I love that they're both great, but they have slight differences, and I think maybe they will push each other, so we will see the best from either side in a best of 5 like this. We see a lot of the gank patterns of Inspired here, for instance. We know that it's been a lot about mid. It always is. That's, as you said yesterday, where League of Legends as a team game starts, in that mid-jungle synergy. But the supports and the bot lane in particular are again going to be so important, and I do want to highlight that Kaiser versus Trimby matchup, which is going to be so influential because of the amount of roaming that we've seen from the supports these playoffs.
I think definitely, considering that both mid laners like to sit mid and farm up. You saw Larssen yesterday grab the Lucian, not to roam and influence the map, but to make sure he had a matchup where he could scale up against Caps. And I think with that in mind, Humanoid loves the Victor, loves the Orianna, loves the TF. These guys want to sit in lane and farm, which allows the supports to come and disrupt that. So whichever support manages to get out of lane and keep the other in is going to be able to unlock the mid laners.
And then I'm going to ask you, of course, we have a Kaiser who has come into the league and really also won Rookie and did fantastically. And now Trimby, who has come in and filled those big shoes of Vander and has played phenomenally for this team. Who edges out today? Is it maybe a bit too early for Trimby?
What? So the advantage that I give to Kaiser is that they were already doing this during the regular season.
True.
The fact that Kaiser and Kazi would actually sack bot waves to rotate mid just so they could put control wards down for Humanoid is just kind of an example of what Bwipo was talking about, where Mad for a long time have actually enabled their mid lane to play safe. The question is, can Trimby match the already effective style that Kaiser is setting up for his mid lane?
Some important things to look out for. Let's look at the bigger picture and the play styles. How these teams like to get down and dirty, how they like to play, and more importantly, how they like to win games. So, is it fair to say that Mad Lions are right now the best team fighting team in Europe, Bwipo?
I think it's fair. They draft for it, they play individually to a point where they can reach that point, and then when they're there, they execute perfectly.
What are kind of the nuances in a team fight that we see that they do well, for instance, target selection or when to pull the trigger or whatnot?
I think, honestly, their main engagers don't overcommit. I think this is a huge part of the success of Mad Lions team fights. Is that you can see Elyoya here. He's not actually committing to the backline. He's waiting until someone with a bigger tool, Armut in this case, with a Mega Gnar, comes in and sets up a huge team fight win.
Yeah, their execution is just flawless, and I think that they seem to have all the working pieces that they need. And like you can see it in their drafts as well. Bwipo briefly I mentioned it, but when we look back at how they actually approach a lot of their playoff games, you can see a very similar formula across the board. You can see the control mages in mid lane, you can see the weak side, top side of the map, and you can also see the hyper carries in the bot side as well. So it seems to me that Mad Lions have a clear formula in how they want to approach the drafts. And again, you can see them on your screen right now. And like this engaged support in particular is super important for Kaiser, and the weak side top is something that I expect to see Mad Lions continue to better enable their team fighting strength.
Now, the nature of a best of 5 is that certain things will start getting banned out. How do you feel, Bwipo, about the depth of champion pools in Mad Lions specifically to be able to field a roster like this every single time when they need to?
Honestly, I think that what strikes out to me is 3 different AD carry champions for Karzi, 3 different engaged supports for Kaiser, but 3 Gnars. To me, it does strike out that the Gnar is going to be an important pick here. Odoamne obviously very comfortable playing the Gnar on the weak side, Armut as well. Getting a ban, or maybe even the Nocturne we saw yesterday played into the Gnar is going to be very interesting.
And I also think that the mid lane picks are going to be super important as well, because yesterday we saw a huge priority on things like the Lucian when paired up with the Lilia for Inspired. We know that Humanoid is a big Lucian player, but it comes back to that whole support matchup that we were talking about earlier. These picks are going to be important. Will the meta change coming to this final? Will it stay the same? And if it does stay the same, which mid laner gets better enabled? I think that these 3 picks are going to be super influential in the outcome of this series.
Indeed, and the picks picks and bans are going to be so interesting to watch. So let's also talk about Rogue and the compositions that they chose to field, specifically versus G2, because as said, Mad Lions have a lot of tape on Rogue, right? And have a lot of drafts that they can see that they pulled out. And Bwipo, I know you had a lot to say about top lane specifically yesterday.
For me, the Renekton is quite an interesting pick here. It's a weak side champion, or at least when used as a weak side champion, he's kind of dominant. It's a one-on-one champion, lots of sustain, pushes all the time, very hard to deal with. In the end, I think with the Gnar out and the Renekton coming in, it's going to be quite interesting to see whether Inspired and Odoamne can find the kills like they did against Wunder right now onto Armut.
Yeah, because I think what surprised me was, as you rightly said, it's a very dominant side champion that I thought Rogue didn't actually play through a huge amount in the early game. Like, they covered him at times, but it was not about trying to get Odoamne ahead. It was more about allow Inspired to play his lane, use the prio that you have from things like a Lucian and a Renekton to then set up invades onto the enemy team. And it was actually very reminiscent of how Damwon approached the game at Worlds last year, where you play more for the jungle rather than the lanes. And that has an element of risk to it because of the value in the later stage games, but you can then compensate for that with the double hyper carry that you have later into the game. So it feels like Rogue's compositions are a little bit harder to execute, but can be so much more effective if you're able to get those early game leads.
Yeah, great point. Hansama loves his hyper carries as well. And I think also in the jungle, it was very interesting to me after, you know, a lot of Volibears and a lot of Hekarims and a lot of Udairs, of course, also due to the bans, but Inspired showing, I'm still fine on this Lilia, I'm still fine on this Nidalee, and I can play these just as well as the others, which creates so much depth and so many questions for these drafts. Specifically the top lane, I do want to highlight Armut versus Odo. You said already some question marks maybe around the Renekton. Who is the weak side king for once and for all?
I'm going to have to give it to Odo. I think that he does his best when he's left alone. I think Armut, given his champion pool, likes the Wukong, likes the Aatrox. Obviously, Gnar being a weak side champion, a patented weak side champion. With that one out, I'm going to have to see whether or not Armut can actually bust out some more Sion, perhaps, which he did have some success on. But ultimately, I think Odoamne is going to have it.
Yeah, the question is, of course, here I asked it, who is the weak side king? But Odoamne fills that role for his team perfectly. It doesn't mean that he can't do the other things. It's just what he does, what's most important for his team. I do find that Mad Lions, they have sometimes built compositions where they really needed Armut to pop off. For instance, the Wukong comes to mind and whatnot. Do you think Armut might push Odoamne to show a different side of himself, or is that just not good for the team of Rogue?
I think it might, he might push Inspired to show a different side of himself, showing up in the top lane a couple of times, which we did see yesterday. So again, I think Armut's going to have to, well, we'll see how confident he is, obviously, because after seeing Wunder tank, 5 to 6 ganks over a best of 5, we'll see if Armut feels confident to pressure as much as he thinks he can.
Yes.
Yeah, so I wasn't sure you wanted to say something.
I did, but I saw that you wanted to get in there, so.
I think that Armut, to me, my concern comes from is that he can't do what Odo does, whereas Odo can do what Armut does. So I believe that Odo can be a carry player if you're willing to invest the resources into him, but I feel like that unless Armut gets specific champions, he on the weak side cannot be anywhere near as effective as an Odoamne player has. And that for me is actually one of the biggest disparities between the two top laners, and something that I think can be a big leverage point for the side of Rogue, and why I think draft is going to be so important in the top lane.
You agree?
Well, I think the biggest difference between the two for me is how the top laners get integrated into the team. I feel like when Mad Lions integrate Armut, it's a 5-man death ball.
Yeah, 100%.
They ball up, they send a death squad to wherever the hell they want, and they take control over 1 to 2 lanes at the same time. With Rogue, when Odoamne gets ahead, they like to spread open the map, take 3 lanes, everyone's farming at the same time, farming as much as they can and getting as much advantage as possible across the board.
Speaking to the wealth of talent in this best of 5 is it's showing in the fact that we haven't even mentioned the mid lane or the specific AD carries. But of course, Larssen versus Humanoid is going to be incredibly huge. Hansama versus Carzzy as well. As we get closer to predictions, is there anything you want to say on the lanes we have not touched on? And do you think any of those could really be the difference makers if they step up today?
Well, I think that we've talked a lot about support, mid lane, jungle, and I think that I will primarily be focusing on those. But I think at the end of the day, this is a teamfight meta. And when you look at teamfight metas, hyper carries are the go-to. And regardless of how much setup you have, regardless of everything that goes on, if that Jinx gets a double kill, if the Kai'Sa starts rolling, these AD carries can snowball the rest of the game. We know that both these players have the potential to do so. So even though we're not talking about them, Carzzy and Hansama are definitely going to be very important when it comes to getting out these team fight
True.
metas.
I mean, it's a team fight meta. If your marksmen aren't doing what they're supposed to, you don't really have a chance.
I mean, honestly, they've been quietly racking up some serious damage numbers on the Jinx, on the Kai'Sa. We saw some Vayne from Carzzy. I'm excited to see where the teams can put these guys, because if they're in the right place at the right time, they will deliver damage.
Okay, it is time for that all-important moment of predictions. As said, not the best track record so far from our guys, but yeah, two phenomenal teams. Vedius, who is taking home the title today?
So I believe that Rogue will be taking the title today 3-1. I believe that right now, early game is super important, and Rogue is the best team in the league at getting early game advantages because they play towards this get jungle ahead style. I think that given their adaptations in draft, I think they're going to win the team fights with the early game leads. All Rogue for me.
After what I saw yesterday and the amount of leads they managed to gather and a cleaner style, I'm going to go give it to Rogue 3-1 as well, because ultimately, I feel like their first best of 5, they managed to get ahead in almost every single game they played against Mad, just weren't able to finish the game. And now with VOD reviews and being able to review some of the mistakes they made, I think they're going to fix it.
I've learned something from the previous shows, meaning congratulations, Mad Lions, with those predictions. Just kidding, of course. Discord, though, super close. Right now, the vote is tied. It says 3-3 question mark because it actually creates a problem because the votes are exactly at 50-50. So in the way that translates to the graphic, that creates a bit of a problem. So, I mean, 6 games, also fine. Nobody wins, not fine. Of course, somebody wants to go home with the title. We are so close to this important moment, and we have 2 teams which we couldn't be more happy with that found themselves in the final. The roads have been long for Odoamne, 7 years in the making to get to this final, and for the rookies that are on these squads, so much pressure on their shoulders to prove what they are worth. This is what it all comes down to. The spring final between Mad Lions and Rogue. None of the players on stage have ever lifted the trophy, and for 5 of them, tonight will be the greatest moment of their careers. Who will rise to the occasion and become the new LEC champions? Everything will be decided in this series as we leave it to Medic for the opening ceremony.